everyone. Hi, welcome. Is the mic okay? Yeah? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. Well, welcome. Thank you for coming to our session. We're so glad to have you here. Hopefully you've all been enjoying the Ability Summit. Our session today, well, actually, first of all, let me start out and tell you who I am. I am Tarina. I'm with the accessibility team at Microsoft, and I'm your moderator today. I work as a program manager on the accessibility team and have spent the last 8 years in this role working at the intersection of disability, neurodiversity, and the employee experience. I get to work really closely with our employees and our manager communities. And because of this, I've really had the opportunity to see when systems are working well and when systems are not working well, and the difference that really can make. I have a fantastic panel joining me today who you're going to meet in just a minute. But first, I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of information to lay the foundation for today's topic. So I want to start with a quote from a July 2024 article that was published by Deloitte's Center of Integrated Research. And it emphasizes the critical need for innovation in today's fast-paced technological landscape. You've heard it the last 2 days. Everything is about AI. Everything is about fast pace. And at Microsoft, we're definitely living that as a technology company, but really every business today is rapidly evolving, and that's due to the technology. And so to keep up, we all need unconventional thinkers. In neurodiversity, the concept of recognizing and valuing divergent ways of thinking can be an organization's best asset. However, what we've found, and we talk with a lot of employers, is that neurodiversity is still a relatively new concept for many employers, and implementing systems and changes can seem very overwhelming. So throughout today's presentation, what we want to do is give you ideas. We want to give you ideas that you can take back to your organizations, to your companies, to your teams, and implement small changes right away. And we know that by doing this, that's going to help companies not miss out on the workforce of the future. This slide shares some statistics that are quite staggering. So we know that 1 in 7 people are neurodivergent. That may be somebody who's autistic or has ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia. But the data now is showing that Gen Z, which is those born between 1997 and 2012, do we have any Gen Z in the audience? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, good. All right. So a good handful of the audience is Gen Z. And this is a generation that currently makes up 30% of our workforce. Those numbers are as of 2025. So this incoming generation is unique because over half, 53% of Gen Z identifies as definitely or somewhat neurodiverse. Growing up, Gen Z has had higher diagnosis rates, they've had stronger support in schools, and they're going to expect this, and they are expecting this in the workplace. Employers who are failing to implement these supportive systems and remove those barriers are going to be left behind because 80% of Gen Z would prefer to apply for employers who support neurodiversity in the workplace. So today, we're going to have a panel discussion. Our panel discussion is going to focus on 3 different topics. We're going to start with first, neuroinclusion across the organization. This is how your policies, your leadership, your practices within your company shape everyday experiences of your employees. This is really the culture piece, the people piece. Second, we're going to talk about the physical environment. This is your building spaces. This is how you design your spaces, and you design flexible spaces that can help impact the way that your employees show up and perform. And third, of course, we're going to talk about AI and technology and how emerging tools can remove barriers for neurodivergent employees and really maximize that power of thinking differently. Blake is going to take us through a demo after that. And then finally, we're going to wrap up at the end with some Q&A. So we do have some mics. We hope you have come with some questions. We would love to answer those at the end. Now I'd like for you to meet our panelists. I'm so honored to be here with this group. Kurt and Blake, I've known for a while. Sarah, I've gotten a chance to know, and you have a fantastic group of panelists here that are true experts in each of their areas and bring a very unique perspective. So I'm going to ask each of you to briefly introduce yourselves, share a bit about the work. Sorry, every time I turn, I lose my mic. Share a little bit about the work that you do so that everyone in the audience can get a chance to get to know you. So Kurt, why don't we start with you?
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Kurt Jobst. It's not a typo. That is actually my last name. My role is a customer accessibility advisory lead at Salesforce. I'm also the co-founder of our neurodiversity ERG at Salesforce and currently the global president of Neuroforce. So a little bit about me. I'm based in Pennsylvania. I come to this from a lived experience as well. I am unapologetically autistic. So you'll see me up here twitching a little bit, shaking a little bit. That's just who I am. But I've been in this space for a number of years, and as I said, as Terry said, working with her and different projects. But thank you for having me, and I really appreciate you having me here.
Thanks, Kurt. Hey, Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. I am Sarah Oppenheisen. I am a director of interiors at HOK. We are a global architecture, interior design, and engineering firm. I'm based out of our San Francisco office, but I've been with the company for 20 years and started in this research about 8 years ago, which was around the same time that we got into this research as a company. I came to it as I was an architect who wanted to make great spaces that were inclusive and welcoming for everyone. And this research and this topic was just a continuation of that initial drive. And then as we got more into it, there wasn't enough resources for designers about how do you actually design for an individual with autism in the space. And so it's been a really exciting journey to just learn more about this topic overall.
Hi, I'm Blake Baxter, and I work for Microsoft. I'm in sales. I work for the Microsoft Customer and Partner Solutions Group, and I've been working in sales most of my career, about 30 years, autistic the entire time. And I have been very involved at Microsoft since starting here about 4 years ago in a number of programs we have that are available for people to work with and spend time in. I'll talk about some of those later, but Microsoft was the first place where I really felt that neurodiversity was being embraced and gave me opportunities to contribute to that. I live in Southern California, and I support a group of about 7 enterprise customers. I'm responsible for the entire Microsoft solution stack across the board there, but I've been heavily focused in the last couple of years, as you can imagine, on AI.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I do have one other question for each of you really quick before we jump into the panel questions. If you could, thinking about the topic of neuroinclusion, what is one thing that you are the most excited about right now in this space?
Sure. So what really energizes me is being at the intersection of accessibility and innovation. Right now, we are helping ensure that technology is shaping the future, and knowing that the work directly affects and shapes more inclusive experiences for people, making every conversation and every project feel genuinely meaningful, that's what really gets me fired up.
I'm so excited that our clients are now coming to us asking for the neuroinclusion. For a long time, it has been let us educate you on what this is and how it applies to your project, and us pushing for it to be involved in different projects. And now it's the first conversation. How can we be including this information? And so that's just in the last really 18 months that we're seeing our clients are more educated on this topic and then coming to us to implement that expertise.
I'm incredibly energized by the intersection of accessibility and technology. And I think generative AI is a massive disruption as well as change in the technology landscape, probably as significant as the internet. The day I got Copilot, I realized I wasn't going to be able to live without it after that day. And through the demo, I'll show some of the things I do. And as a result of that kind of motivation, I've gotten involved in Microsoft with our Disability Employee Resource Group, where I serve as an engagement co-lead. I've had the opportunity to serve on Tarina's Neurodiversity Hiring Program Advisory Committee, and also our Global Commercial Accessibility Program, where we bring the message of accessibility to market for the sales organization and look for those opportunities to impress upon people how all technology is accessible technology. So many things that we use every single day were originally designed for accessibility, including a keyboard. The original typewriter from 1808 was designed as a tool for the blind. And I see AI out of the box as an accessibility tool without it even having been considered in that way. But we're seeing absolutely stunning changes in results.
Yeah, and Blake's going to share some of those examples in our demo in a little bit of how he's using the tech, which every time we talk, you have a new cool thing you're doing. So I'm excited for the audience to see.
Do my best.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's dive in. So Kurt and I sit on the formerly Autism at Work Roundtable, now the Neurodiversity at Work Roundtable, which is a group of employers. Last time I checked, we had a bit over 50 employers who are all focused on neuroinclusion within their companies, whether they started with a hiring program or they have different efforts that are happening across the org to make it more neuroinclusive. So we've had a chance to really learn from each other a lot, and Salesforce is doing such amazing things. So I'm going to start with you, Kurt. If you could describe how you're operationalizing neuroinclusion across your organization, both internally with your employees and externally in the products that you're building.
Great question. Salesforce and Microsoft actually share a lot of the same ideas. And right off the bat, one of the things we do is we operationalize neuroinclusion as a whole system strategy. It's not just a siloed HR program. It's not just one aspect. We really build it into everything at Salesforce. And starting off, right off the bat, one of the things we did was once again, based off of Microsoft, is we created the Central Accommodations Fund. And what that does is that eliminates the process of going to your manager and requesting the things that you need to thrive at work. That Central Accommodations Fund means access to 90+ success enablers. That means assistive tech, coaching, sensory tools, all this without manager approval, no need to disclose. All of it's just right there upon request. And what we use is an AI platform by Retain called Retain by Inclusively. And it allows employees to explore options with zero logging and complete confidentiality. So often, being the president of the neurodiversity ERG that we have, people are often coming to me and saying, hey, I was recently diagnosed, or I'm new to the company, and I'm just trying to find out what's available or what may help me succeed at work. And the first thing I said is, have you checked out Retain? Have you gone on there? Because you can log in and type in and say, these are the things that I'm not thriving because of these things. Maybe it's time blindness. Maybe it's, be easily distracted. Maybe it's scheduling. Maybe it's, whatever it may be. And through that platform, it's AI driven. As I said, we don't record who's using it or why. And it just provides these options. And it just makes it easy so people can do what they need to do to work better. It's not, we don't view it as something that is getting us ahead. It's just people being able to thrive in their environment. And on top of that, what we do is technology is framed as a universal performance layer, not a disability accommodation. So, for example, Slack, Grammarly, MindView, Reclaim, Cephable, these are standard productivity tools, all of which drive adoption. And these tools actually most of them came from employee advocacy. The employees would come up, and Christian is sitting up here with Salesforce all the time. Employees would be like, hey, have you seen this new AT? And the first thing we'll do is we'll check it out. We'll see, is it beneficial? Is it helpful? Is it something that we can use? Is it better than some of the tools we have? So instead of us presenting them to our neurodivergent employees, oftentimes it comes from them to us. And then once again, with that, it's not just about the neurodivergent community. One of the things we do with neurodiversity job coaching is it's not just for the community itself. We actually encourage people leaders to take this, to become more neuroinclusive, to be better managers, better leaders. Are there ways that they can improve and make an environment that is more neuro-friendly? So our neurodiversity job coaching with Genius Within is ways that to adapt environments to people, not the other way around. On top of that, we actually have modules on Trailhead, which is our open learning platform. Anyone can log in. We have neurodiversity modules, and there we have, once again, the employee resource group I spoke about. And externally, building into our products, we had a fantastic partnership, and it's actually still ongoing, with one of our key products, Slack. They came to our neurodivergent community, and they were like, hey, how can we become better? Because if a tool isn't used, if you can't get on the tool and just use it, and it becomes difficult to use, then it's not an effective tool. And the more time you can spend on that, it becomes absolutely critical. So one of the things the Slack program did is they provided something called simplified mode in Slack. And with simplified mode, they were able to reduce the pings and the noise and focus on what's relevant at that time. And one of the biggest benefits of that simplified mode in Slack is that you can tailor it to your own personal needs. It's not like, okay, you're neurodivergent, here's a neurodivergent setting. Because as we know, that would be useless because there's no such thing. If you've met one neurodivergent person, you've met one neurodivergent person. But the ability to pick and choose the things that you need is so relevant and so important. So that's kind of how we make things better for everyone. And I know there was a comment yesterday. It was like, if you design for the edges, you're going to get the middle as well. So it's curb cut theory all together.
Yeah, no, it's so perfect. So Kurt, you touched on the importance of partnerships across the organization. So we all have HR, we all have benefits, we all have accommodations, we all have learning and development, we all have our manager training teams. Those are the partnerships that you build, and you together can work on neuro-inclusive practices with those teams that benefit all of your employees. And I think that's really a unique and special way to get started. And listening to your employees, the voice of your employees, I can't even tell you how important that has been in the work we've done at Microsoft, is understanding the voice of the neurodivergent community, our disability community here, because they are true experts, and they're the ones who are thinking ahead. They're the ones who are thinking about what's going to make the business better. And when you lean in and you listen and you really learn from your colleagues like that, and you partner up across the org, I think that's how you start to see the changes happen. Blake, you have been a part of so much of this work. Is there anything you'd want to add to what Kurt has said?
On topic one?
Huh?
On topic one?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mentioned some of the programs we have at Microsoft, which are really extremely critical, I think. The Employee Resource Group, which many organizations have, our Disability Employee Resource Group, or now Inclusion Network, supports neurodiversity, and we have a neurodiversity inclusion network as well. And that focuses on employees internally in their experience working at Microsoft. Our Global Commercial Accessibility Program focuses on our message to customers. And that's a place where we can actually tag opportunities. Salespeople can go into our system and tag opportunities with a sales program called Accessibility as a Differentiator. And then we start tracking all of the deals that we've won behind an accessibility motion. And that's incredibly important as well. I think when it comes to operationalizing across a company that makes products for people to purchase, right, to be able to measure the work we're doing in accessibility and the impact it's having on our customers.
Great, thank you. Blake's being a little modest. He is very involved with our Disability Inclusion Network and has been very involved with our neurodiversity communities, all of which are, I think we're 5,000 plus employees. So keeping our communities involved, keeping our communities informed, and it takes leadership within your company to do that. So anything you'd want to add, Sarah? No?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. So we've covered off on topic one, which is really that neuro-inclusion across your company. It's your people, it's your culture. We're going to move on to topic two, and I'm going to go to Sarah for this. I'm going to give you the clicker because I know you have some slides to share. But I just first want to say that the space that I've always worked in is people, and learning what I've learned from HOK and Sarah and others at their organization, it's fascinating to me what can be done to change an environment. We talk a lot about physical spaces when it comes to accessibility, and when you talk about physical spaces and neuro-inclusion, it's just another layer of interesting in how you can create spaces that work better for everyone. So Sarah, I would love it if you could really talk about the physical workplace design, what HOK has done, and how you've done all the research on how it impacts neurodivergent employees in the physical environment. That'd be great.
All of our research started with a question from our client that was, how do you design a space for someone with autism? And we did not have a good answer, or wasn't good enough. And that's what spawned all this research over the last 8 years. So bear with me for a moment, because I want to give you some quick history about how our research has evolved, and then a quick case study that proves the point. So over the last 8 years, we've partnered with major universities, including the Center for the Built Environment at UC Berkeley, the University of Cambridge. Our vendor partners have been very active with us in this. Organizations who are represented in this room, thank you, as well as our clients, and that they've continued to push us further. Our early work included a partnership with Tarkett. They do flooring, right? And we worked with them to create an educational program for their salespeople on how to pick flooring based on hyper and hyposensitive needs. Because the worst thing that you can do for someone who is hypersensitive is to put a crazy, bright, bold pattern in a space where they're trying to just do their best work and relax and chill. So we worked with them on a whole educational system. We did a series of surveys that were peer-reviewed by the Center for the Built Environment at UC Berkeley in order to remove bias, so that we could better understand demographics and different sensory triggers across different neurodivergent identities, across different demographic groups, across different markets. Scientists are different than accountants, that are different than designers. And so we really gained a lot of research as part of those surveys. We then turned that into a research grant. And with that, we were able to purchase biometric wearables, and we put our research to the test with our own HOK Seattle office. So we had our team take both surveys online, as well as wearing Fitbits, both before and after the move into a space that was designed with neuro-inclusion in mind. So our office is in downtown Seattle. We completed this in 2024. It's 10,000 square feet, so it's a small sample size, but you'll be wowed by the results. We've got 46 employees. Of those, we got 30 people participating in this survey. And we really thought about neuro-inclusion from the very beginning of this conversation. The initial assessment, I'm showing on this slide a graph that shows the priority and then the satisfaction with a space. So this graph shows that most individuals placed a high level of importance on elements that were getting very low satisfaction. This was pre-move. Post-move, you can see on the graph, almost all of the points moved into the high importance, still high important items, now at high satisfaction. So these were minor moves that we did in order to make sure that people were getting what they needed within the space. Again, satisfaction items from a qualitative perspective, pre and post move, there was a 38% improvement in the quality of the acoustics. Acoustics continues to be one of the biggest pain points when it comes to designing for neuroinclusion. The other thing that we really focus on with designing for neuroinclusion is variety and choice. 39% increase in satisfaction with that. Thermal comfort is another big one, 20% increase there. And the biggest number on this slide is the 16% perceived increase in productivity. People feel like this neuro-inclusive workplace is making them better at their job. That's huge. And then when you get into the actual biometric data, 13% increase in their satisfaction with their well-being overall, increase in the daily steps, people are 21% more active. The way we start with designing for a neuro-inclusive workplace is about this spatial zoning. And we think about there's 6 modalities of work. This concentrate, contemplate, commune, create, congregate, and then the convivial environments. And the worst thing that you can do when you are planning a workplace is put an active social zone right next to a spot where somebody is trying to really do focused and deep work. And so having these zoning maps around your initial plan to understand, I've got a red zone next to a blue zone, and that's going to be problematic for our employees. And to reference Kurt's point, we use a phrase called, when you design for the extreme, you benefit the mean. And so while this does embrace neurodivergent employees, this certainly benefits everyone. Our top design strategies, there are 13 listed here. I'm just going to focus on a few of them that I've already spoken to, because variety and choice is the #1 thing that we recommend to our clients. That you need to have options for those who are hypersensitive versus hyposensitive, that they have the agency to pick where and how they want to work, that they have the ability to control the sound levels, the lighting levels, that's another one on this list, that everybody talks about having access to natural daylight, and yes, that is important. But there are also individuals who need to be able to just go in a dark room and turn the lights way down low, and that's where they're going to be their most productive. And having adjustable and ergonomic furniture, that is also really helpful, but the people are not potted plants. They are the thing that's going to be the easiest to get up and move around the space, so providing that variety is our key recommendation. And while our research started as focused on workplace, and what I'm sharing on the screen now is a variety of white papers and research papers, and then ultimately the book that we wrote about this topic, all of this is available to everyone here on HOK.com. This research has now expanded into our work in airports and hospitals and sports venues, which are all high stress environments, and that there are ways to design them with neuro-inclusion in mind.
Fantastic, thank you. I have learned so much from you, and I wanted to come into this room today and talk to the production team about how we could make it like zony and all this, but I thought they'd probably not be too thrilled with that, no. But it's just, it goes to show the impact that lighting and sound, and you've probably even felt it this week being in a conference. Every space you're in impacts how productive you are, how you feel, and I do believe that this is the future we're moving towards when it comes to the physical spaces, is having more variety and having spaces you can go to. Blake and Kurt, do you have anything you'd want to add to the physical workplace design and just how that's impacted you in your work?
I did actually, if that's all right. So we were talking about this yesterday. My partner is a cancer survivor, and I had to spend several days with her in the hospital getting a tumor removed. And hospitals are, everybody's already nodding. We don't have to go into it. The beeps, the sounds, the voices over this and that. It's just not a welcoming, comfortable space. So while I was trying to be as supportive as possible, I was just absolutely melting down, having the pretty rough time. Afterwards, when they were checking her out, they gave me some medicine, and to get the medicine, I had to speak to the nurse. And the nurse said, what is your partner's birthday? My selective mutism kicked in. I could not get my words out. And the person was just like, you don't know your partner's birthday? Why don't you've lived with them for how many years? Why don't you know this? And I'm just, at this point, just completely blank, could not get the date out that I know very, very well. And it was really just from the environment. So hearing this and hearing how how much our environments can shape how we process, something as simple as reciting a birthday that I know very well, August 19th, but I couldn't get it out at that point. And it was a really troubling time. So it's nice to know that things are actually being thought about. So take these ideas and please share them and spread them out.
I work from home, so it's extremely inclusive, but I follow a lot of those same principles. The lighting is very important to me, the colors I choose, and the space behind me, because in Teams, I tend to watch my own video more than anything else. I'm managing my reactions and my facial expressions, so what's behind me in my video is something that's not distracting to me, because that's what I'm primarily looking at when I'm in meetings. And I often get comments on how neat the space is behind me, but I think all of that is incredibly important, and in virtual environments, we get a lot of noise as well. And I think there's parallels between designing physical environments and virtual environments when it comes to reducing noise and giving people room to think and start new tasks.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to our third topic for the panelists, and that is, how is generative AI, Blake, I'm going to go to you for this one. And I know you're going to cover a lot of information in your demo, but how is generative AI acting as an accessibility tool out of the box? And where are you seeing the biggest impact for neurodivergent employees?
So when I first got Copilot, which was several years ago now, the same day I felt like I'm never going to give this back, and I'm never going to work anywhere that doesn't have access to these kinds of tools. One of the very first things I noticed is when I was taking notes in a meeting, I was not getting what was going on in the meeting, because I turned on Recap in Teams, which takes notes and provides action items and summaries. And I continued taking my own notes in a notebook while it was doing that, because I didn't really, at first, I was like, I want to make sure it's getting everything. I'm not sure I trust it. And then as I was comparing the notes that were provided to me by the AI and my own notes, I realized that every time I was writing something down in my notebook, it was recording something that I wasn't listening to and I wasn't catching. So eventually I was able to stop taking my own notes, and now I'm completely focused on the meeting, my own video, making sure I'm reacting and behaving in a way that makes other people want to talk to me and comfortable. And another thing that's really incredible about it, and I think about this a lot, it would be hard to say, I think, that AI has empathy, but AI enables empathy. Because a lot of times the way empathy is perceived is language, tone, the way you respond to other people. And I use AI to help me with that. If I'm sending an email or writing a document or putting a presentation together, the ability to say, I'm sending this email to an executive, I want to sound unassuming and professional, and then I write the email like a doctor writing a prescription. I pay no attention to grammar or punctuation or anything else. Even misspellings, I don't even try anymore. I don't know if that's good necessarily. And then Copilot creates the email for me. And then I can adjust as I go. And that turns hours into minutes. One of the biggest challenges I've had as a salesperson for 30 years is writing emails. It takes me much longer to write an email than other colleagues. And now it takes me the same amount of time or less. It's greatly accelerated the iterative tasking that I have to perform every day, and allows me to focus on kind of these higher level functions of strategy and what I'm trying to do, and not worrying so much about those, what I would consider not minor tasks, but tasks that can be completed by technology at this point, and make me seem more empathetic.
Thank you, Blake.
I think as the AI develops, it brings an even larger case for designing spaces for neuroinclusion. And that it's shifting, as Blake has described, work is changing. And our workplaces that are foundational to creativity, to innovation, to having relationships with your colleagues, those need to change with it. So we believe that designing for neuroinclusion is not just a nice to have anymore, it's an imperative to the productivity of the employees of the future.
So for me, it's interesting. Another humorous anecdote is that I had written an email to a client, and the client responded, "Thank you, but next time, please don't use AI to respond to my email." This was my email. So now the ironic thing is, being an autistic person, I use AI to sound more human. I will take my emails, I'll run them through. It will warm up the tone or add a good morning, because I'm terrible about, usually if I go to talk to people, I just let's get this done, and it's not I'm being aggressive or anything, it's just, this is what's on my mind. If I don't get it out, it's gonna be gone. So I tend to just lead with that, and I forget the good morning, the pleasantries. So I use AI to sound more human. But on top of that, I think that what we're using for generative AI, for me, is extremely helpful in two ways. Number one, it's the overload that can happen from too much communication. So I can be like, wow, especially, here I am at a conference. I know my messages, my emails, and things like that are piling up. So I'm going to need something to run through and give me a summary of what I need to address right now and what can I put off. And then I work on that. But even more than that, task switching can be really difficult with me. If I'm talking to a client, or if I have an internal meeting about one thing, and then 5 minutes later I have a client meeting that's addressing something totally different. If I didn't have something to say, okay, can you quickly summarize what the next meeting is about, which it can do in seconds or less, it helps me switch to that new mode, because otherwise my brain will still be spinning on the things that I was talking about 2 hours early, and it's allowed me to shift so much easier. So it's really a great tool, and I had a great note which I can't get to because my phone just locked up. But right off the bat, the thread that's running through this is we're not trying to fix the individual. We're offloading cognitive effort through technology. And the basic point of this is every feature that reduces friction is an accessibility feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and to build off that and to touch on what Blake said, before meeting notes were being generated, before agendas, AI could generate agendas just based upon your calendar invites, employees would have to really sometimes fight to get that from their managers and their teams. Sometimes they would put it in as accommodations because they were looking for a clear recap of meeting notes to get everyone aligned. And I think that is one of the things that is just gone now. Employees have the ability to use the AI to generate these meeting notes, which, as Blake mentioned, allows you to completely focus on that meeting and not be struggling to take down notes as you go. So lots of benefits for that. So we have 20 minutes left, it looks like, in this session, and we're going to show you some cool use cases. And so I'm going to have Blake come on up to the podium.
Sorry, touching the microphone.
With it.
No,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Thank you. So let's just start with M365 Copilot. This is an AI-powered assistant. It's connected to Work IQ, which means it's connected to all of the information that I have permission to inside my corporate network. Teams, Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, all my Word and PowerPoint and Excel documents. In the upper left, it says Work IQ. That's a button. If I click on that button, it stops looking at my internal work information and it only looks at the web. There's also a selection where it can combine and do both, and that's the default mode. It's looking internally, plus it's looking at supporting information external. It's integrated into all the apps like Outlook, Word, and Teams. And down the left side of the Copilot application that we're looking at here are a couple of selections like New Chat, Search, and Agents. Agents is where I can access specific Copilot agents for doing specific things. So an agent will generally not be looking at all of my Work IQ information, or an agent might not be looking at all information that's available via the web, and it's doing something very specific, and I'm going to show an agent in just a minute. Also down the left side are agents that are pinned to the taskbar. Researcher and Analyst are two specific agents. Researcher will do something where it looks much more deeply at a question you ask, and it might take much longer. I've seen Researcher take 15, 20 minutes to complete a task because it's going very deep into the researcher. And Analyst is great for analyzing spreadsheets and other types of business analytics data. Then there's two there that say Cowork. One says Frontier, which is an internal pre-release version, and then Cowork, the release version. And this is a partnership with Anthropic. So the Claude Cowork application is now embedded in Copilot, looking at my Work IQ data. And I'll show a little bit of Cowork as well. And then a sales agent, which taps into our Dynamics system. Sorry, Kurt. Dynamics 365. Salesforce, our biggest competitor. This is all especially helpful for people with ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, dyslexia, anxiety. It greatly reduces the amount of information that I'm having to deal with when I ask a question in a way that, previously if I'm just running a search in a browser, I have to scan an entire page or pages of information, most of which is probably not relevant to what I'm trying to get done before I find the information I'm looking for. Copilot gets me around all that, incredibly useful. Also incredibly useful for anyone who uses a screen reader as their primary interface to technology. So one agent that we've built and deployed internally, our accessibility team, is called Neurodiversity Navigator. It's an agent that's designed to educate users about neurodiversity with trusted external resources. The Neurodiversity Navigator we've deployed internally also looks at internal resources. The one I'm demoing will only look at external resources. Again, that's part of building an agent. You determine what information it's looking for. And so there's a lot of information out there about neurodiversity. We want to make sure it's pulling from trusted sources and getting accurate information and doing it quickly. Another great thing about Neurodiversity Navigator is if I'm an employee who hasn't disclosed and I'm trying to get information about neurodiversity resources within my organization, I'm not asking anyone. I don't have to ask anyone. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to open a case. I can go to this agent and get the information I'm looking for. It is friendly, concise, and inclusive, and it is not designed to provide legal, medical, or company-specific advice beyond linking to official internal pages, and that's part of the agent's instructions. That's why it does it. And it does not store personal data or infer sensitive information. So here's a live Microsoft Copilot window. If this looks a little different from the one that you use, it's because I'm internal at Microsoft, and this is a pre-release version. On the left side are my agents, and I will click on the Neurodiversity Navigator here. And one thing that it provides is 3 example prompts that I can use in case I'm not really sure what I'm looking for or don't know how to ask. So I will just click on the middle prompt here, which is how can workplace support neurodivergent employees? And it's going to go out and it's going to reason for a couple seconds. Again, it's looking at external information. If it was our internal production version, it would also access our neurodiversity resources page, among other things, and opportunities to be involved here. So, quick summary, workplaces can support neurodivergent employees by creating environments that are flexible, respectful, and inclusive of different ways of thinking and working. And then there are different sections. Section 1 is build an inclusive culture. Encourage respect for different thinking styles and communication preferences. I won't read every bullet here, but there are 3 bullets here. And a really important one, of course, is create safe spaces where employees feel comfortable sharing their needs. Again, if I'm not there yet, I have an agent. I can do it. Nobody knows I'm asking these questions. Number 2, offer personalized accommodations. Examples are provide extra time for tasks or interviews, provide breaks throughout the day, quiet workspaces for noise-reducing tools. Number 3, adjust hiring and onboarding processes. Number 4 is improve communication practices. Number 5, design flexible ways of working. There's a lot. Number 6, provide ongoing support and mentorship. 7 is use inclusive tools and technology. Check, we're doing it. 8, focus on strengths. So this is pretty comprehensive, and again, it's gone to specific resources for this information that the agent has been instructed to use. This is the configuration for the Neurodiversity Navigator, and I want you to notice that this is built in natural language. I don't have to know Python to do this. And these are the instructions that were used to create the agent. The name is Neurodiversity Navigator. It provides a description of what the agent is doing, and then a set of about 9 or 10 instructions here. Ground all answers in the knowledge source while keeping them clear, accurate, and supportive. Stick to plain language. Don't use metaphors or complex vocabulary. Communicate only in English. Respect the diverse needs and experiences of neurodivergent individuals in every response. Never describe people with disabilities as impaired. Replace assumptions with evidence-based information and resources. Refer users to qualified professionals for medical, legal, or financial questions. Keep a friendly, non-judgmental tone that encourages further exploration, and treat disability disclosures matter-of-factly, no pity or glorification. Those are the instructions for the agent, and then it provides the websites that the agent should be using for its answers. There's a list of 4 websites there, plus a SharePoint we've set up internally for content for this specific agent. And then there's some suggested prompts, which we saw when I opened the agent. What is neurodiversity and why is it important? So it can provide 3 suggested prompts. That's it. That's how the Neurodiversity Navigator works. The rest, it does on its own. That's the configuration for that. So I want to talk about an agent that I built. So this is the meeting summary email generator. And this is user created. I created this for myself, and I haven't published it. I'm the only one using it. But I believe there's a lot of other people throughout Microsoft that have built similar things for themselves. And it's designed to ingest raw meeting notes from a Teams intelligent recap. So if you have Copilot or Teams Premium, you get meeting notes afterwards that include very, very detailed bullet and sub-bullets and action items, all kinds of information, but it's a lot of information. And reformat that into brief and an actionable email that I'm going to send to a customer. Identify task owners, but only Microsoft task owners. Don't assign tasks to a customer. Create a table of action items, and this needs to be repeatable. Because if I'm sending out meeting notes 3-4 times a week, this is an agent I can use every time. It is not designed to replace follow-up activity, and it is not designed to place action items on the customer. This is the goal, to create a succinct email summary of a meeting with a brief introduction and a table of action items. So this is a team that had a meeting, and per the meeting, decided to adopt new email guidelines. This is an email from the manager of the team. And while Teams recap notes are extremely valuable, there's an opportunity for us to be more succinct when communicating after a meeting with a customer. So everything's here. These are the coaching and the template for the email I want to create. So I want to transform this. Now this is illegible. I understand that, and I did that on purpose. This is a Teams meeting recap. You could take all of this and send it to your customer after a meeting and say, here's the notes. Right? Very unlikely they're going to read the whole thing. And obviously, it's a ton of information now, and that's great, because I want to get those notes. I want that recap after a meeting. I want that level of detail, but I want to turn that into something that's much more succinct and easy to understand. So I want to transform this into an email that looks like this, based on the template that the team has agreed to use. And in this email is an example subject line that I can use, the opening, the discussion highlights, the next steps in a 3-column table, which includes the action, the purpose, and the owner, and a closing. So I've gone from 1,024 words, 6 bullets, 18 sub-bullets, and 6 follow-up tasks, and transformed it into an email with 331 words, 5 bullets, no sub-bullets, and 5 next steps. I don't know who got out of something, but somehow it turned 6 into 5. And it's in a table view. So as a neurodivergent person, to receive the guidance that we're going to take a Teams recap and turn it into this email based on a template and specific coaching every single time created tremendous anxiety for me. And this is a real-world example. Again, sending emails is one of the most challenging parts of my job. The idea that I now need to conform language, tone, and format every single time I do it created a lot of anxiety. I think you can understand. So what I did was I built an agent to do it for me. Now, I didn't just write the instructions for the agent myself. What I did is I leveraged something called meta prompting. And I went into Copilot and I said, I want to create an agent that transforms meeting notes into an email based on the coaching and template provided in the attached file, email coaching example, the one we saw 2 slides ago. The attached file, Contoso Biweekly Strategy Sync, will be the input. That's the Teams meeting recap. I attach both those files to this prompt. Please write the instructions so I can create the agent. So I asked Copilot how to create an agent to satisfy the task I was trying to complete. And I know you're sitting there and going, hey, I didn't ask for, review a bunch of coding, but I want to show you the response that Copilot gave me. The first thing it did is it gave me a prompt that I can use manually. If I decide then, I'm not going to create an agent, but I just want to save a prompt, and every time I go to Copilot, I just want to do this as a manual process, and it provides me the manual instructions for a Copilot prompt. And then it also gives me Agent Builder system instructions. You are a Microsoft Account Team Communication Agent. Your job is to transform raw meeting notes into a concise, executive-ready follow-up email that reflects strong Microsoft coaching principles. There are strict rules. There are 6 of them there. I'll read one. Do not reproduce raw notes or chronological minutes. There's an email structure, which includes subject, opening, and various sections, plus a closing. There's a little bit on style. It should be executive-ready, customer-centric, should provide clear accountability, and no filler language. And then it provides a couple, again, sample prompts that the agent can provide to anyone who's planning on using it. And that created the email notes, the meeting notes email generator. So what I'm going to do is here is a set of meeting notes generated by Copilot. I'm simply going to Control-A, select all, Control-C. I'm going to go back here to Copilot. I'm going to click on the left side on the meeting notes agent, and I'm simply going to paste them in there and hit enter. And now it's off thinking, reformatting, thinking about how to make this email for me. It says lining things up. It's doing it right now. And it should come back, and there it is. There's my email to send. It's a repeatable process. I take a large amount of information, reformat it into a template that all the team uses, and it creates it for me. And of course, I read this first. I make minor changes here and there, but it's done exactly what I asked it to do. This is an incredible time saver, and it's completely removed the anxiety that I used to feel sending out meeting recaps to customers. I can't even tell you the amount of time this saves me. It's incredible.
I think we have 4 minutes.
4 minutes for me or total?
Total.
Oh, okay. So I will go quickly. So that's the meeting notes email generator. Finally, I want to show you something that one of our co-pilot solution engineers on the sales organization built using CoWork. This is a corporate communication generator. And he built this for a customer. And I said, that's amazing. I would like to demonstrate this. So he provided it to me, and then I used CoWork to contosoize it. I genericized it. I said, take this file and take out any reference to the actual customer, replace it with Contoso, search internally at Microsoft for more information about Contoso, because that's the fictitious company we always use for our demos. And CoWork changed the original CoWork file to make it generic. And so this goes, and all you do here is, let's say I'm the CEO, and I want to do an internal memo, all hands, and it's about our earning results, and tone should be confident. I click on Generate Communications, and it's use actual information about my organization to create an internal communication email based on real information about my company. It also creates a social companion for posting on LinkedIn, key messages if I'm talking about the email, and then it provides its sources and facts. And you can do this for any executive, any communication type, any tone. This was built by a single individual at Microsoft using CoWork, and now it's an HTML file that we can share with anybody in the organization. And again, for demo purposes, I just took it and I had CoWork make it generic using all the Contoso information.
Thank you, Blake.
That's it.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. So you can use AI to teach you how to use AI.
That's right.
And it actually really does work. If you're not quite sure what to do, just ask the AI, and it will walk you through the process. It'll write instructions for you. It's quite good. Okay, well, we have 2 minutes left. I know that we're going to stay here. If you have any questions, please feel free to come up after the session. We can take a question or two if there are any right now. Yeah, great.
Hello, everyone. I really appreciate the examples shared around neuro-inclusive spaces and AI support tools. One thing I'm curious about, though, is beyond AI features like Copilot, what is Microsoft doing across its broader product ecosystem to support neurodiverse employees and users? So, for example, HOK approaches inclusion through physical space design, furniture, and environmental experiences. And tools and Slack also have introduced things like simplified mode to reduce cognitive overload. Since Microsoft builds products for users across the world, like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, we are building like for employees for other organizations as well. So how is the company thinking about neuro-inclusive design within those everyday products?
It's a great question. I can take it, and Blake, you can build on that. So we just wrapped up Neurodiversity Celebration Week, which is the week that we at Microsoft really honor neuroinclusion across the organization. And during that, we had 10 of our top products that volunteered to have us test. So we brought members of the neurodivergent community, employees here at Microsoft, to test those products so the product teams could get feedback on what's called their core scenarios, so the main things you go through when you're using the product. That's one way. We also have the Inclusive Design Tech Lab, who's here today. They're out just off the lobby. It'd be great to stop by there and chat with them. They're always getting feedback from the disability and neurodiversity communities. And then my colleague, Christina Mallon, is part of our inclusive design team. And so she's taking the feedback from the neurodivergent community and the disability communities and getting it to our into our products. And we also have the Enterprise Disability Answer Desk that's taking in all the bugs and the problems and getting those sent over. But happy to share more if you would like. Yeah.
And product teams will often come to the employee resource groups. And again, in disability and neurodiversity employee resource groups, is closing in on 10,000 people, and ask. You want to be part of a new product we're developing. Maybe it's a thing that automatically changes the tone of your screen. That was a recent one. The hand raise feature in Teams came from our ADHD community. Yes. The blurred background is for people that read lips. So many features that we use today were great suggestions from our neurodivergent and also disability communities.
Okay.
The takeaway is, if you wanted to learn about the community, work with the community. They're there to help you. They will always assist.
Ask the community or ask the AI, right? Okay. Well, we really appreciate you coming to our session today. It looks like there's a QR code up there. Feedback is a gift. You've heard it all week. We welcome any feedback you have on our session, and we'll stay up here and chat if anybody would like to come up and ask questions. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of the Ability Summit. Thank you to my panel. It's an honor to be up here with you. And we'll say goodbye for now. Okay, thanks everyone.
Thank you.